everybody, and welcome back, for most of you, back to That Dog Training Show with Tanya Yarbrough. And yes, I'm Tanya Yarbrough, at least for today. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you had a good holiday, a little bit of a break, and a good start for a new year. And if you didn't have a good start, well, it won't take much to keep you going better for you, you know what I'm saying? So, anyway, for me, I had a busy time. I ended up canceling what I intended to do. I planned, but I had 4 extra dogs at my house over the holidays, whether people enjoyed themselves. But it was pretty good, you know. It's not a bad gig to work out of the home and just have to walk the dogs and train them and, you know, make sure nobody hurts each other and all that stuff. So it was kind of relaxed. I ended up doing a lot of reorganizing and cleaning and laundry, which for me was a damn good treat, actually. So I was all right with that. So on the terms of reorganizing things, I'm going to start, you know, tweaking the show just a tiny, tiny bit. I'd like to start off each show now that we have a new year, 2015, with our Shubs of the Week. And not only would I like to start the show with that, which may or may not be my topic of the week, I would like to invite you, all of you, to give me your Shubs, something you experienced, something that, you know, drove you crazy or made you laugh or what have you, or both. But you can contact me on That Dog Training Show with Tanya Yarbrough on the Facebook page, or email me at thatdogtrainingshow@gmail.com and send me your story and let me know how you want to be identified or not be identified on the radio. And I will be glad to open the show with your Shubs of the Week, because I have my experiences, but I would definitely like to hear yours, so I'd be glad to share. Anyway, if you have any questions as well in terms of dog training or dog behavior, I also welcome you to ask me these questions, and I will answer them on air. How's that? See, it's like kind of free dog training. It's just delayed gratification. You have to actually pay attention. And I will email all those who give me questions and let them know what show it's going to be on. So anyway, let's move on to our little deal. The Shubs of the Week, the first one of the year. Here it is, folks. A dog owner who expects the trainer to do all the work of training their dog, also known as id est. I have a client who refuses to learn how to train his own dog and then blames me for an out-of-control puppy. That's right. Hired me to start the training with the understanding that I was going to teach him how to maintain it. Because it is 2 different things, by the way, to start a behavior, to start training that behavior, and then to maintain it. It is much harder to do the starting of it, the beginning, the learning process. That takes more patience. I was glad to start it, like teaching the sit and the down and all that good stuff. But the owner has to develop that relationship and continue and maintain it and build it in distance, distraction, and duration. But he refuses to learn it, right? Doesn't want to hear about it, doesn't want to even have free videos of it, blah, blah, blah. But then it's my fault that when he lets his puppy loose out in the house, it is out of control, poops on all things that are square, hello pee pads, and destroys his socks, etc., etc. So that also happens to be the topic of today's show. Newsflash, people, you are responsible for training your dog. That's right. You are responsible for training your dog. I am responsible for actually teaching you to do this. Okay, so simply put, a pet dog trainer, such as myself, the job is this: to teach the owner how to train their own dog, as well as teach the owner how to develop a solid, trusting work relationship with their dog. It's kind of like this, like you hire a personal trainer for getting in shape. Now, the personal trainer's job is not to actually get you in shape. They can't do the sit-ups for you, folks. No. They show you how to do it properly and to breathe properly and when to rest and when to keep going so that you can do it your damn self. You know what I'm saying? They're not supposed to do the work for you, and then you're supposed to expect them to get you into this different shape without you doing a damn thing except pay the money. That's just one analogy. A pet dog trainer does not train the dog and send it back to the owner. and then the dog is perfect for the rest of its life. Unless, of course, the owner actually learns from the trainer how to maintain and continue developing the training. That's where I don't know, there's this huge misconception, and I know back in the 70s this was super popular, and before the 70s it was also very super popular, but I was a little younger, so I didn't really experience that particularly myself. It seems there are enough people in the world who have enough money, which is probably not you and I, but there's enough people in the world who have enough money, but not the time or the patience, who think that the way to get a dog trained is to be well behaved is just send the dog off for months at a time, and voila, they have a house trained, doesn't chew your stuff, and is never out of control kind of dog for the rest of its life. Totally wrong. Now, it works for horses. Why? Because the horse is not living in your damn house with you. That's why. And it's trained to do certain behaviors, and it is continually trained with its handlers from then on. And the owner of the horse rarely deals with that, and certainly not in their own living room. So it doesn't work for dogs. It doesn't work at all. And I'm going to explain why. It should be obvious, I would think, but apparently it is not. Apparently this is a hard concept for some people. So I want to kind of share why this is obvious, to me anyway. It's kind of like this. Dogs are not like marble, that once you sculpt it, they remain these perfect, steadfast, finished pieces of art that remind the owner of how proud they should be of themselves for owning such a fine piece of art. Dogs are like clay, and they are constantly molding and changing based on its environment. It is a constant work up till the point of being glazed and placed in the kiln. And even so, now the analogy doesn't work anymore for dogs because they continue to change. They are living creatures who respond to their environment. Period. So, on that thought, in that analogy, the pet dog trainer is not the marble sculptor. The pet dog trainer is the master potter, who teaches the owner of the clay all the techniques of shaping and molding the clay, i.e. the dog, into a piece of art that they envision. That's why it can be so individual, right? When it comes to what kind of dog you want, what kind of training you want, what the boundaries you want for your dogs, and what are some of the things that are universal and what's kind of unique that you can choose and pick. So if the owner refuses to spin the wheel, or refuses to shape the clay, or all of the above, all that is left there is that messy pile of wet clay. Even if the master potter has started the foundations, as soon as that is passed over to the owner and they don't continue the techniques and continue to work it according to their vision, it's not going to be this fine piece of pottery art that the owner wants. It's just not possible. It just simply doesn't work that way. So then if the messed up piece of pottery, now clay with this weird mixture of water and clay, so now it's even harder to change and mold again because now you've got to get the consistency to the right place again before you can start over. Now the master potter has to start all over the following week or the following month and rebuild the foundation and get the consistency right, i.e. the attitude of the dog, etc., and then try to hand it back over to the owner, and then of course the owner refuses to do any of the work. So once again, now this massive clay that was once fixed is even worse, and each time back and forth the clay loses the proper consistency, it loses its resiliency, you have to add more clay, you have to put more money into it, you have to put more work into it, and all the while it is simply because the owner refuses to put in the work, refuses to learn. So it is with this client who has insisted I train a dog. So remember, this is a Shubs thing, so I've experienced this. This has gotten to where I have an extreme example now. It's not the first time. It is the most phenomenal time that someone has been this hard-headed about the situation. In the 6 months this dog has lived, they have lived only 4 weeks. This dog has lived only 4 weeks with the owner and the rest of the weeks with me, because I keep having to fix the foundations that get ruined every time all those boundaries and things are changed, because the owner refuses to learn anything about boundaries or anything about the behaviors. Okay? So, although I made it very clear to this client from the very beginning, before taking on any work or agreeing to be hired at all, that I will only get the puppy started in terms of learning the new behaviors and the boundaries, the client must meet with me once a week and learn how to maintain the behaviors his puppy has learned. That's it. Wouldn't you like that little situation, right? I get the hard work part done, you just learn the hand signal and continue on, right? That seems like a good deal. The client has refused to pay attention longer than 3 minutes every time I've met, if the client even showed up. The client refused the free of charge short videos of 10 to 30 seconds that I offered to demonstrates me working these commands with his own puppy, etc. Now that's too much too. That's too much commitment, even though it was totally free. So the dog, this young, almost 6-month-old puppy, is house trained, but just in my house. She knows not to steal my socks, but just in my house. Anybody else's house, she'll steal their socks. It's her favorite thing. And she'll parade around the house with it and insist that you chase her. So it's kind of a hard thing to teach your dog to drop it. She knows not to chew my electrical cords in my house. Just in my house. You can't expect a dog to transfer this information. And we had a show about this very early on in the first season from a psychologist who explained that dogs don't learn the same way that we do. Dogs don't perfectly transfer learning from one context to another. It just doesn't happen. When you change the context, the dog rethinks the situation. Now, it makes it easier once they've learned a certain behavior or boundary in one context. When they go to a new context and you kind of reset the learning, it goes a lot faster and sticks a little longer, but it's not automatic. So, when it comes to, for instance, in movie training for dogs, we deal with training, dogs, cats, etc., but I'll talk about dogs. We train the behaviors, which might be something simple like a sit or a down or what have you, just normal behaviors of a dog. But we also train them separately under the context of duration, distance, and distraction. Usually duration first, then distance, then distractions. Well, guess what a new environment is for a dog? It's a distraction. So if I can train my dog to sit, like a lot of people tell me, and I'm sure you've all experienced this yourselves, because this is normal, my dog does great inside the house, but once we go outside, they don't seem to know what a sit is anymore. Well, of course not, because you actually have to retrain, although albeit it's much easier and a lot faster, the dog to sit outside. And then that's not just it, the whole of it. It's got to be someplace outside that's not like next to a freight train. All right? You got to slowly build these distractions in these different contexts. I mean, we start off with training a dog sitting, and then when I teach the class, I always tell people, make sure that the next time you ask the dog to sit, you've led them to another sit place, even just a few inches away, a slightly different angle. Let the dog know that in every context, no matter what they're looking at, because they take these details very seriously, that a sit means a sit, no matter what angle they're sitting, etc. So this is something that also transfers to house training, to not chewing your furniture, to not stealing your dirty laundry and parading around the house with it, to not taking a shit in your bathtub, whatever it may be. You have to actually retrain. Again, it's much easier to do it in a new context once they've learned the basic foundations, but you still have to retrain within that context. So here's a client who expects me to have a 6-month